Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and we've got ourselves another European comic that I know nothing about. Legends of Percevan comes to us from France, in particular the artist Philippe Leguy, and apologies for any pronunciation mistakes. Philippe had been doing adaptations of Leiji Matsumoto's Captain Harlock, some influence you can definitely see in some of the faces in the book in my humble opinion, when he met Jean Letergy. The two shared a love of the Middle Ages and comics in general, so they collaborated on a fantasy story featuring a noble, almost Arthurian knight named Percevan. While they enjoyed the actual history of the Middle Ages, they figured some extra excitement could be had by introducing magic into it, thus the story we've got today. I couldn't find a lot of info on Percevan itself, so I don't know if it's as popular as, say, Asterix or other European books that people have requested over the years, but it doesn't seem to be. So instead, let's talk about Fantasy Flight Games for a second. Fantasy Flight Games is actually a relatively local company to me, a tabletop games developer here in Minnesota. They've done supplements for Dungeons & Dragons, Warhammer, and even created board games based on video games like Doom, StarCraft, and Warcraft. A short time after their founding, though, they did also try to break into the comic market, partially thanks to their founder, Christian Petersen, having grown up in Denmark with the very different European comics market. He figured that books like Tintin and Asterix were already popular around the world, and they just needed to give them an opportunity to thrive in the USA. Problem is, he brought them in at the wrong time. They tried to release some translations of European books in the latter half of the 90s, Percevan included, but by that point the speculator boom had collapsed and the comic market shrank considerably, so while the books got some distribution, there wasn't a huge market for them. Still, things changed by the mid-2010s and they were able to give another shot at it, releasing Percevan again in 2008, though in trade collections rather than as single issues. And a patron wants me to look at the fourth issue, so let's dig into The Legends of Percevan number 4, The Realm of Aslor, and see what this is all about.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man who punch sporadically or grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara, ghosts, gods, a universe in flux. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
My scans are from a trade, so no looking at the cover. We open with a recap of the first 3 stories, which of course I'll summarize for you now. Percevan is a wandering knight and a jewel in his possession gets taken by an evil baron named Deadstone. He goes on a quest to retrieve it with the help of the bard Curvin. Deadstone was aided by an evil wizard named Zenzarael, who also subcontracted distracting Percevan to a sorceress named Balkis. Balkis used her magic to seduce Percevan, who, in a beautiful subversion of expectations when freed from the enchantment, and Balkis talked about how much it sucked for her to be so alone and that nobody wanted her, he was all like, what the hell are you talking about? You're hot. You could totally pull any guy. And she was just like, huh. Her sister, Ariel, helped in his escape, but it was clear that while Percevan comes from the classic sword and sorcery school of, I'm happy to bang any barmaid who catches my eye who's up for it, he seemed to have some requited affection for Balkis. After they defeated Deadstone and retrieved his jewel, he fought an old friend of his who had been corrupted by evil and helped free his mind, leading us to this story. Percevan has crossed swords with evil several times in his short career. It has not gone unnoticed by management and will be a boon to his performance evaluation. His most memorable encounter, however, was with the sorceress Balkis. Balkis' sister Ariel freed Percevan from her bewitchment, but magic may not have been all that drew them together. They agreed to share streaming passwords. Now, Percevan and Curvin enjoy a well-earned rest. It's spa day in Rivendell. We open in the lands of Count John of Bruckbriar during summer, where a group of farmers are taking a rest when a figure emerges from the shadows. Back, cursed one! Stay back! We've told you before, Graham Linehan, you're not welcome here! The figure steals a drink and then retreats into some bushes. We cut over to Percevan, where he's having a practice duel with an old mentor of his, Sir William, and manages to best him. It seems that the student has surpassed the teacher, but you missed your last tuition payment, so we're not giving you the diploma. After the mysterious figure from before scares away a kid and his goat, we see Curvin waking up along with his pet, Gwimly, a little monkey squirrel thing he picked up in the last issue. He's hungry and decides to get a meal from the innkeepers of the place he's staying in. He says it's for Gwimly, which they're not buying, but they make the food anyway. He prefers the lamb rare. I didn't know that lamb came in bone-in ham form. Yeah, I'm not kidding. He calls it a ham on the next page. Anyway, with the food retrieved, he goes off for a picnic with Gwimly. Curvin realizes that he forgot the wine and runs off to get it, but leaving Gwimly alone allows it to be grabbed by the massive hand of the shadowed figure from before. Curvin soon returns. Wine is to cheese as pork is to beans. Leave a comment explaining what vintage of pork you like to drink. He soon discovers Gwimly missing, and he runs off to find Percevan. The thing about Curvin is that while at first you might believe him to just be the odious comic relief, he routinely shows himself to be loyal, brave, and intelligent. Percevan gets kidnapped, he's first to try a rescue. He'll spot someone doing something nefarious, and he'll call it out. Sure, he's got plenty of common sense cowardice at times to not want to head into a deadly situation, but he's ride or die for his friends and will drop everything to help them. And indeed, he reports to Percevan that Gwimly has been kidnapped, specifically having spotted a guy named Shylock, and apparently Shylock having hit him between panels given that bump on his head. Shylock was Balkus's dark servant in their previous encounter. It was him! There aren't two faces that ugly in all the world! You're being very judgy for a dude whose features are pushed to the extreme ends of their face. Look at this. You have more philtrum than nose. We cut over to another castle where the cousin of the king, Lord Thibault, is discussing with someone how said king is dying, and they've employed someone's services to help him. Percevan and Curvin head out to Balkus's castle, which we see is overrun with the king's guards. Percevan is able to sneak past all of them right to Balkus's chamber and start exchanging sweet words with her, but all Curvin can do is demand to know where the hell Gwimly is. Balkus explains that Gwimly is an homunculus and a potion made from its heart will save the realm. Shylock soon arrives with it and Curvin tries to take it back, but a guard stands in his way. As such, Curvin uppercuts the guy. Curvin is so diplomatic. Standard opening move for a negotiation. You start wheeling and dealing down from there. A brawl breaks out as Percevan has to take on more guards and Gwimly manages to escape, but soon Percevan and Curvin are knocked out and tossed in a dungeon. The two are brought to the king's bedchambers where Balkus and the royal physician explain the problem. Balkus says that the king has fallen victim to a spell that can be cured with a potion she created, but she needs the heart of an homunculus for it. Gwimly is worth 10 kings to me! He's right, the cute animal does contribute more to society than a king. I mean, unless you're allowed to pet the king and he purrs or something, but I feel like something else is going on with the king in that scenario. However, if Balkus fails to save the king, she's going to be condemned as a witch and burned at the stake. Curvin refuses to help them take Gwimly, but Balkus says they do have another option. The king's illness is a result of a wizard, Charlon, and they can get him to undo the ailment. He resides in the land of Aslor, an otherworldly land forgotten by the sun, also known as Wisconsin. Percevan volunteers to go and force Charlon to reverse his spell. Curvin at first refusing to come along, but Percevan reminding him that the alternative is Gwimly dying. Later that night, an unknown figure sends out a messenger bird, and Percevan says his farewell to Balkus. Last night, the moon started waxing. We tried to convince it that it didn't need to conform to other people's standards of beauty, but it wasn't convinced. No, of course she means when the moon is full, the king will die. She also informs our heroes that Sergeant Gunter, the head guard who was eager for Balkus to be killed, has decided to join them. Percevan objects at first, but Balkus reminds him they don't have time to argue about this, using her magic to lift the mists around the castle to clear a path to Aslor. You must be back before the full moon when the mists return. I won't be able to lift them again for 100 moons. It's a rough workout program, but it gets the job done. Balkus hands Percevan something. This stone may be useful.
I got a rock.
As our heroes depart, Gunter complaining about the smelly cheeses that Curvin has packed for the trip, Lord Thibault receives the message about Percevan's quest. It seems that indeed he and his assistant arranged for the king's assassination, and Gunter is in on it, the guy promising to sabotage the quest. However, that's not good enough for Thibault, who decides to leave and ensure their failure. And the quest gets off to a literally rocky start as our heroes have to climb down a rocky overpass, Gunter deliberately tossing down a rock at Curvin, though denies it. Percevan says to stop arguing and they can proceed, though Curvin decides to have a little or perhaps a lot, of liquid courage to continue the climb, getting tipsy enough to fall down and roll right into Gunter so they fall in the mud together. Alcoholism, leading to karmic backlash against your enemies. The three reach a massive waterfall that apparently hides the realm of Aslor. Curvin is in no mood to try to brave the massive fall, so opts for them to build a raft. While Thibault approaches the wizard's lands, our heroes find it difficult to cross the falls due to the current. Eventually, they're pushed through, but smashed against some rocks on the land, covered in skeletons. Wonder why those are all there. They should ask those big, hungry, gator-looking things if they know why. They climb a dead tree in the area for safety, Curvin losing his sausage links in the process. Frustrated by all the lost food, our bard bounces on his tree branch, complaining about it, and it snaps and he falls towards the creatures. Well, look on the bright side. You get to recover the sausages. The remaining two don't see what happens to him, and when Gunter says Curvin was just slowing them down, Percevan defends him. Another word about my friend, and I'll feed you to the monsters myself! The only reason I'm not doing so now is because he had all the food on him, so now I'm keeping you around to eat you later. Curvin, however, reports that he fell down into a cavern below the ground, though why the creatures aren't attempting to pursue is anyone's guess. He tells them to jump down after him, and they reluctantly do so, Gunter once again getting his ass fallen on thanks to Percevan needing to slam him down into the cavern hole. The lizards soon give chase, even crawling after them down a narrow passageway. Percevan orders Curvin to throw back a ham to distract them, which he takes a moment to bite out of first. Man's got his priorities straight, at least. They reach a deeper cave and push a boulder to block the passage entry, halting the creatures. Thibault and the other guy meet with a guide to get them through Aslor, while our heroes return to the surface and the desolate wastelands of the place. Percevan wants to travel through a mire to continue, but Gunter fakes spraining his ankle. Percevan, being noble, insists they carry him on a stretcher, much to Curvin's continued annoyance. However, before he can annoy them much more, another creature springs out of the ground.
Who shall we have worm sign the likes of which even God has never seen?
It appears to be some kind of dragon with lobster claws. Gunter deciding that his ankle is feeling better, so he runs off. Percevan shoots the creature with a crossbow, only for the bolt to disrupt whatever it was so that it passes right through it, though slightly on fire, I guess. It wasn't real? Generative AI crap, obviously. Still a hell of an illusion to cast, and a much better one than Gunter's fake sprained ankle, and he pleads for mercy before Curvin kicks his ass. The solution, then, is for Gunter to carry Curvin through the mire. While Thibault says that he'll threaten Charlon to make sure he doesn't surrender the antidote, our heroes rest for the night. Curvin reveals that Gwimli has been hiding in his sack this whole time and brings him out to play. Gunter spots this and decides to take advantage of the distraction to kill Percevan, but Gwimli leaps over and latches onto the guy's face, causing him to miss. Percevan wakes up and prepares to fight, but the area shakes, revealing that they were actually on top of some sort of weird giant salamander-esque being. A Rangoon! I thought they were legends! Well, better start chucking Pokeballs. I don't suppose Gwimli knows any status effect moves, does he? It lets out its tongue at Curvin, and Percevan slices at it, but like the dragon before, it vanishes. As does Gunter, who runs off now that he's made. Our heroes proceed into an area with these statues. Good old-fashioned nightmare fuel! And out of one of the statues comes hundreds of bats that attack Curvin. Vampires! Help! Quick, vampires! Help me against these bats! Thibault goes into the chamber where Charlon resides, and there's a high-pitched noise that summons away all the bats. With the bats cleared out, Thibault looks out and spots our heroes regrouping, deciding on a plan. He hides his assistant and grabs a curtain, wrapping himself in it to pretend to be Charlon. He claims to Percevan that the spell he cast is unbreakable, and that Balkis was mistaken in her claim. But then the real Charlon comes out and is pissed about all this. You're an imposter! Unfortunately, someone claims to have seen Thibault use the medbay scanner, so no one votes him out. Percevan explains the situation to Charlon, who says he was told the poison he made was to end the reign of a tyrant. Easily swayed, he prepares the cure. This effigy of your king shares his fate. Your king shall become kitty litter. Thibault yells out for his servant to emerge. The distraction allows him to smash the cure, and it was the only one Charlon had. The two villains are ordered into the Chasm of Eternity, and Percevan says that there must be some other cure available. He recalls the rock Balkis gave him, which Charlon is impressed by, calling it the Stone of Thunder. With that I can make a Raichu! He says that this must have been how Percevan defeated the creatures he encountered when entering Aslor. We now have a chance, but not without danger to you, Sir Knight. I am a loyal servant to my king. I will gladly risk my life to save his. I must consult my library. You need to get a book off the high shelf using a wobbly ladder. He tells our heroes to rest up while he spends days in the library, things getting worse for the king back home. The royal physician warns Balkis that as soon as the king dies, she's gonna be burned alive. The moon is not yet full. Percevan will succeed. I believe in him. Unfortunately, daylight savings time hits during this, so her execution gets scheduled for an hour before he gets back. An awkward tragedy, to be sure. Charlon finally gets Percevan and brings him to a chamber. You are the first human to have entered here. Yeah, I haven't cleaned this room in years, and I wanted to make a good first impression. That's why it took a few days. He explains that the original theft of the stone caused Aslor to become the wasteland it is now. The stone gives voice to the statues of Aslor. If their voices are restored, then that which can be done can be undone. Mind you, they all sound like Jeff Goldblum, so it gets kind of exhausting after a while. Percevan, being the one who bore the stone, is apparently the only one allowed to restore the stone. But this might kill him because of reasons. Naturally, Percevan accepts the danger and just slams that stone into the head. Would have been hilarious if he accidentally broke it. And thus all the statues start letting out ominous noises. Frankly, the whole thing looks like a Junji Ito page. I don't know if they intended it to be creepy, but it is. The sound causes Percevan to collapse, but the land of Aslor begins reforming. We cut back over to Balkis, who has been tied to a stake in preparation for her burning. The physician declares that she dies the instant the king dies, but they then spot the king up and about, having recovered. It turns out the king just needed some ASMR chanting from a distance. A few days later, our heroes have returned, and Percevan explains to Balkis how Charlon was able to keep him alive after the head chanting began. But unfortunately, the two can't really celebrate right now because the physician is dragging Percevan back to the king and away from her castle. And so our comic ends with the two saying their farewells and Percevan departing. Must time always play tricks with us? You know, if I was the king, I feel like I'd be okay with letting the dude who saved my life have some time off to bang his girlfriend. And, you know, anything else he wants because he saved the king's life! Anyway, this comic is pretty good. It's a competently made sword and sorcery tale of knights and magic and intrigue and fantasy fun. There's not really much to it. I can offer some criticisms, but they are pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. For instance, while Curvin's humor is basic and amusing in its own right, a lot of it is really just the same gags over and over. He's hungry, he's humiliated, etc. Sure, there's variety in that he's not annoying and he steps up when the moment calls for it, but for comic relief, it's not really that funny beyond a light chuckle maybe. Also, we kept cutting back to Thibault for like 2 panels at a time, showing him on the journey to Aslor as well, but it contributes nothing other than padding. It's just the same sequence repeated ad nauseum. We're almost there! Okay, that's our cameo, bye. Just feels like the time could be better spent with other intrigue or for more character development or gags. It's a waste of panel real estate when we didn't need to see Thibault's considerably less interesting journey every step of the way for a couple of panels at a time. Otherwise, good stuff. Nothing groundbreaking, but it doesn't need to be. Next time, we go back to something considerably less interesting and hardly groundbreaking. It's Youngblood's Strike File again. Oh crap, we're all the way out here. I did the big tearful farewell, and I just realized I left my house keys back in Balkis's castle. This is gonna be awkward. Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching.